Future Flying Saucers resources. And I want to ask you a question. Have you ever thought about why are there so many laws in the Old Testament? Have you ever thought about that? And what do those laws in the Old Testament have to do with us? Those of us in, the church of the 21st century. So I want to talk a little bit about that today. In the Pentateuch, you have Moses getting the laws in Exodus, and then you're revisited with more laws in the book of Numbers, and you have Leviticus, and then the law shows up again in Deuteronomy. That's a lot of laws. And, what in the world was the purpose of all of these laws that God gave to Israel? Well, the first reason why God gave all these laws to ancient Israel is that he wanted them to be a nation set apart. They were to be set apart from all the other nations in the world at that time. And we have to remember, when we read the Bible, it is ancient text, okay? It is a narrative. They are story narratives of biblical, historical events. So as when we read it, there's a lot of strange things that we read in the first 5 books of the Bible that really don't make sense to us today, because we live in a totally different time period, different culture. So does it mean it's irrelevant? Well, let's just keep talking for a little bit. And if you have any questions or comments, stick them below and let's have a conversation about this. Okay? So, as time goes by, all of these laws have come about. So Moses received the 10 Commandments on Mount Sinai, and he gave those to the Israelites. And then over time, more and more laws were given. And, a lot of the times the laws were given in response to something that the people did. For example, because of their sin, God sent a plague. And the plague, wiped out a bunch of people. Well, now what are the Israelites supposed to do with all these dead bodies? And so in the books of the law, in the Torah, we're given all of these laws that God gives the people on how to handle dead bodies. And it's because this plague came. Okay, so a lot of these laws came about because they were in response to something that happened or something that the people did. And God responded with these laws. And you know what? Over and over you hear in the Old Testament that God tells the people, if you obey my laws, if you obey my commands, if you obey them, then you will show other nations. If Israel is able to obey all these commands, they will show other nations the love and the justice and the mercy of God, and they would be set apart. The problem is, the Israelites couldn't do very, very well with this. They didn't do a very good job. And so, over and over God would say, if you obey, if you obey, if you obey. If you don't obey, then there will be a consequence, right? And consequently, we find out that Israel is exiled, and with the Babylonians that come and the Assyrians come and all that type of thing later on in scripture that we read about. Today, especially those of us in the Western world, we are a very different people in a very different nation. Just our government is different, our time period is different, technology is different. And so today, when we look at these laws, consider, these laws just kind of really show the wisdom of God. Back in the day, people didn't really know about germs, and they didn't know a lot of scientific research that we have today. So, when that plague came through and God gave them those laws, well, God gave them these laws so they would cleanse themselves and keep other diseases down. And there was a reason why he gave those laws to the people. And, so we can see the wisdom of God in these laws that were given to the ancient Hebrew people. And you know, if you look at the laws of Egypt, or the laws of ancient Babylonians and the ancient Assyrians and all these types of things, if you look at their laws, you know, archaeology has found things like that show the different laws of the different ancient peoples. And if you look at those laws compared to the laws of the Hebrew people, you would find that these laws of ancient Israel were steps above the other nations of the world. Humanitarian, they were more humanitarian. They looked at women and children differently. I mean, think about some of those other verses in scripture that tell you these nations that just sacrificed babies and killed women, or they had these temples of idol worship that was prostitution. I mean, so just think about when you compare governments, when you compare these laws from all ancient peoples to the ancient Hebrews, it was not, you know, it looks weird to us, but in that time period, you know, the government of the Hebrew people, it was much more humanitarian than those surrounding them. And you know, just, okay, so think about this law. There's a law that states, do not boil or kill a baby goat in its own mother's milk. Okay, now that's just kind of weird, right? Okay, so think about it. Why in the world would God want to tell these people, do not boil a baby goat in the milk of its own mother's? This is weird. Okay, archaeology has they found this library, and in the library it showed all of these other rituals and things that other nations about the time of Joshua, what they were doing, and it had these rituals where they would boil or kill the babies of goats and put it in their mother's milk. And so the principle of this law, you know, that God was trying to tell his people is, you know, let's don't put a source of life, a baby, okay? Let's don't put that with something that's dead. You know, the milk that comes out of a mom, it's like, it's not, it gives life, but it's not alive. But you're gonna boil this, it's just death and life, and it's mixed up, and it was a ritual for this other type of religion. And the principle of the law is just God telling the Hebrew ancient people, don't do that. Don't do these weird, strange rituals, okay? We don't need that. And it's from that law that the kosher line and all the kosher laws come from, okay? So when you think about like a cheeseburger, you know, cheeseburger has the meat of a dead cow, right? And then the cheese is from the milk. Well, if you eat kosher, you can't have a beef cheeseburger because you got the dead meat with the dairy products. So you see, these laws, they have influenced even our society today. So, you know, when we're teaching our kids and they'll hear about Jews and being kosher, and they're like, what does that mean? And well, it all goes back to this law that was given. And so over time, it's like some of the meanings of the laws have just gotten lost because our culture has changed so much. Okay, so what does that mean? What does that mean for us? Okay, well, when you read through Exodus, Numbers, and Leviticus, and Deuteronomy, and you're reading through it, and get your mind off of these are just really strange, weird rules, you know. Who cares about it when you get leprosy on a bald head, you know? But the thing that we really need to think about when we're teaching the laws and when we're teaching Old Testament to kids is that over and over and over and over, the law shows us that there is nothing that we can do as people to fix our relationship with God. And that's the whole purpose of the law, is to point out our sin. It shows humanity, but it shows that we can't fix the problem. It doesn't matter if you can follow all of those laws. And really, there's like 613 of them. Do you really think you're going to be able to follow all 613 laws? You can't. And Moses even told the people, when he got the law again that second time in Deuteronomy, he even told the people, you can't follow all of these. And so, they're not adequate. The laws are not adequate, and that is why we need Jesus. And so I just want you to understand, this is why we need to teach the Old Testament to children. We need to teach about the laws, and we need to teach about all these ancient story, events, history, whatever you want to call it, because they show how much humanity needs Jesus. And if we can't get across why people need Jesus, then, the whole purpose of the gospel is lost. Okay? So we can't obey 613 laws. We just can't. Just like the ancient Hebrews couldn't. We can't today either. And so we need Jesus. And so we have these 5 books of the Bible: Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, the Torah, the Pentateuch, okay? And it's this story narrative that shows real biblical events, and it's for us to read. And the response of our hearts should be, Lord, please change our hearts. And it's just a case study of human nature. And as we read it and we see these people and we see them interacting, and we see them interacting with other people, but then also with God, may our heart's cry be, please, Lord, take this heart of stone and make it a heart of flesh. Change my heart. Thanks for joining me. I hope you learned something. Put some questions below, or maybe something else you might want to learn about. But I love the Old Testament, and I hope you'll see the purpose behind teaching it to our kids. Have a great day.